Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on what is the start of a pretty depressing week really after, a horrible 7 days for Arsenal that was kind of rounded off with that defeat at home to Brighton on Saturday. That certainly leaves the top four hopes kind of hanging by a thread really. Obviously not done yet, still 8 games to go, but the way Arsenal are suddenly playing at the moment, the problems they've got with injuries and the way Tottenham, more importantly, are playing and scoring goals and the way they're looking now, it just feels it's going to be very, very difficult for Arsenal. I mean, look, who knows? There's still plenty of games to go. Arsenal got some big games coming up. If they can somehow turn things around and get themselves back on it, then maybe they can still make a real push for this top four. But as it stands this Monday morning, it's difficult. It's difficult to feel too optimistic about their Champions League chances, and that's really disappointing given the position they put themselves in. But they've just had a horrible week, a week from hell, really. Losing at Crystal Palace and the injuries to Partey and Tierney, and then the defeat at home to Brighton and the manner of the defeats as well. It's just kind of sucked the life out of the top four bid really, and all the optimism that had been built up. So I wanted to explore a little bit about what's gone wrong during the last week. Try and find some reasons to be optimistic about what's to come during the remainder of the season. And it's tough at the moment to feel optimistic, I have to say, but I don't want to be too depressed and too down because no one wants to really watch me sit here now and talk about how things are going wrong. But it's difficult not to because it's just been a really difficult week, like I said. Starting with that Palace defeat, I think we all went to the Brighton game on Saturday just hoping to see a response. Arteta had built it up beforehand, had told his players what he wanted to see. But the performance was just so flat. Arsenal never got going, never really caused Brighton any sort of problems, and Brighton were comfortable winners. Yes, Arsenal got that late goal from Martin Odegaard and kind of had a little bit of a assault after that, nearly got an equaliser through Nketiah, but in truth, Brighton, although they only had about 6 shots, I think, they were still fairly comfortable winners. Arsenal never looked like troubling them at times, and that was really disappointing because you wanted to see a response after what had happened at Crystal Palace. You wanted Arsenal to kind of say, look, everyone's writing us off, we're still in this, and it just didn't materialise. And Arteta has to take a big amount of blame for what happened on Saturday. I think we all looked at it as soon as the team news was announced. When I was sitting in the press room at the Emirates at 2:00 and I saw the team, my heart sank a little bit. I remember, I put this on social media yesterday, I remember during that run, Emery's first season, when it looked like Arsenal got themselves top four, they were in a very good position around this stage of the season. And then Arsenal played that home game against Crystal Palace. They'd just beaten Napoli away. And they came back for that game against Crystal Palace on a Sunday, and Emery made a lot of changes, probably because, they played Thursday night in Naples. But I looked at that team sheet then. I remember sitting next to Amy Lawrence from The Athletic in the press room, and we saw the team news come through. We had Jenkinson was starting at right back, Mustafi was playing, Mavropanos was playing, and we were just like, oh my God, what's he done? That's a big risk. And it didn't work. Arsenal lost that game, and their season sort of collapsed after that moment. And when I saw the team news on Saturday, I just had a real flashback to that Crystal Palace game, which ended up being so defining for Unai Emery. And I saw what Arteta had done and moved Xhaka to left back, and I just thought, oh no, what have you done? And you kind of hoped at that point that you were going to go out, watch the match, everything was going to go pretty smoothly. Xhaka was going to play well, Arsenal were going to play well, Lokonga was going to do the job in the centre of midfield on his own. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. And all your fears, or certainly all my fears that I had when I saw the team news, materialised in front of my very eyes. You had Xhaka really struggling left back, offering absolutely nothing going forward. The first goal came from him being caught out of position in the first place. Sambi playing in that kind of lone role that Thomas Partey has initially struggled with, but has made his own recently. And then you're asking this young kid who's not played in a long time to basically run the midfield completely on his own. It was a massive ask for Sambi, and he did struggle. There's no doubt about that. Well, I thought he played pretty well in the second half. Fair play to him. I thought he bounced back very well from what was a really difficult first half. But he struggled, and then you had to drop Martin Odegaard really deep because of the sort of the switch in personnel, and that robbed you of your main sort of link presence in the final third. So there was absolutely no link to the attack. Lacazette made 8 passes in the whole game. He was so out of it, just not involved whatsoever, and that was made as a big result of the fact that Odegaard was playing so deep. It also robbed Arsenal of that real sort of link up in the final third between Odegaard and Saka on the left, which we've seen be so effective in recent weeks. It was just all stemmed from that decision to move Xhaka out of midfield and play him at left back. And it's just square pegs in round holes, and that was the first thing that came into my head when I saw the team sheet. And I know Nuno Tavares has been struggling for form, and there's been a lot of spotlight on him, but when you've got Tavares there, when you've got a natural left back who can come in and fill the void left by Kieran Tierney, perhaps not play as well as Kieran Tierney, obviously, but you're at home to Brighton. We've seen Tavares play well at home in the Emirates this season. He's not a terrible player, he's just in a bad run of form. It just felt like it was still, and look, who am I to question Mikel Arteta? I'm just a journalist, fan, whatever, and Arteta's a manager, that's what he gets paid for. He makes the big decisions, he's the guy who's got all the data, blah blah blah, but still, I think, and I wasn't alone, I know you all thought it as well, it just looked like an odd decision to move so many things around, to have such a disruptive decision when you could have just played a natural left back in the left back role. In the reason he was brought to Arsenal in the first place was to cover for Kieran Tierney if he got injured, and so to not play him when Kieran Tierney injured was just a really, I just looked at it and thought it's a really odd decision, especially because of the disruption that everything else was going to cause. And ultimately that, I really feel that was a decision that made Arsenal play really, really poorly. And I think Arteta has to hold his hands up. And I'm sure he'll be looking at things this week at London Colney and thinking, have I made the right decision there? Did I make the right decision? He was asked about it in his press conference afterwards, and I didn't really understand his response, to be honest. It didn't really make much sense. He said he felt like that Xhaka was going to be able to exploit the space the way that Brighton played, that playing Xhaka there, he was going to be able to exploit the space, but it's Granit Xhaka at the end of the day. He's a central midfielder, not very mobile. How's he going to exploit any space down the left-hand side playing as a fullback? You've got Nuno Tavares there, who, yes, he's got faults, yes, he's in a bad run of form, but he can attack. We know he can attack. We know he can cause problems. Surely if there's space there, the one player who's going to exploit it more out of Xhaka and Nuno Tavares is going to be Nuno Tavares. So it was just an odd decision, and you have to sit here now and think, where does Tavares go from here? We've seen when Arteta kind of seems to go cold on players that it's very tough for them to get back into the fold, and you're looking at it and thinking, just after a couple of bad games, it just feels a little bit harsh the way Tavares has been treated. And Arsenal got Southampton on Saturday. They've got a lot of time now to prepare and think about what they need to do, and I really hope that we see Tavares start on Saturday at Southampton. If this is Arteta's plan to deal with the absence of Tierney for the remainder of the season, then I really do worry for how things are going to go during these last 8 games, because Arsenal got some really difficult matches coming up, much more difficult than what they were going to face against Brighton on Saturday, who, remember, went into that game without a win in 7 league games and having only scored 1 goal in the last 7 league games. Arsenal have got to go to Chelsea, they've got to go to Tottenham, they've got to go to West Ham, they've got to play Man United. They're going to do that with Granit Xhaka playing at left back and with Sambi Lokonga on his own in midfield, at the base of the midfield, and by playing Martin Odegaard, pulling him away from the attacking final third and playing him deeper. I really do worry for how Arsenal are going to perform, because we've seen Arteta play this system before with kind of Smith Rowe and Odegaard in the midfield 3, and it's not worked yet. And this is more than, we've probably seen it 3 or 4 times now, and it's never worked. And it is a worry, I have to say. I'd much rather get to Southampton on Saturday, see Tavares at left back, see Xhaka at the base of the midfield, then have Sambi Lokonga and in the more advanced role and then have Martin Odegaard, and then you can kind of have Xhaka and Lokonga swapping positions and doing what you need to do in midfield, and just let Martin Odegaard do what he does best. Keep him in the final third, keep him quite close to Bukayo Saka on the right hand side, and I'm sure Arsenal will be a better team for it. It just doesn't feel like rocket science. But look, as I said, Mikel Arteta is a manager. He made this decision, and this one does feel like it's on him, really, what happened on Saturday. It feels like he disrupted things to such an extent, and it just felt like his team didn't play well as a result of that. Look, the players need to hold their hands up as well. They're decent players, and none of them performed. Yes, the manager, I think, quite deservedly deserves a lot of criticism for what happened on Saturday, but the players weren't great either. They didn't perform. I mean, I know I said that Lacazette was isolated, but he had made 8 passes when he was on the pitch in the whole game. I mean, that's just a staggering stat. He was that irrelevant to the match. He made 8 passes, and that's worrying. And Eddie Nketiah came on for the last 20 minutes, and in that time hit the bar. Should have scored, to be honest. Hit the bar after Odegaard's free kick had come back off the bar as well, and he had that diving header in at the end that was saved. At least he was causing Brighton defence problems. He was getting on the end of things. He was making runs and getting on the end of that cross, which I thought he did really well for that header. Lacazette's just so out of sync at the moment, so out of form. And he's just not causing defenders any sort of issues whatsoever in any part of the game. And, you know, I felt like he shouldn't have played on Saturday. He did. I really feel like he shouldn't be in the team on this coming Saturday because it's just sending out the wrong message as well. I feel if you're continuing to play a player who's so clearly out of form and not doing what he's in the team to do, then what sort of message does that send out? It's just, it doesn't feel like it's the right one. You can't keep playing Lacazette just because he's Lacazette. Surely you have to try something new. Arsenal scored 1 goal in the last 4 games. You know, all the good attacking football they were playing around the turn of the year when, you know, Lacazette was dropping deep, linking other players in, that's long gone at the moment. They're in a real rut of form and they need to try something different because the games are going to be disappearing thick and fast now. You know, they're going to really start going. They've only 8 games left, so they've got to try something new to try and find a little bit of form and at least put some sort of pressure on Tottenham. And it just feels like, again, you know, I said it before the game last weekend and it felt like that was a time when Arteta needed to change things. But now, absolutely, it feels like this weekend that he has to do something a little bit different. He can't go to Southampton and play with the same formation and the same forward line and the same players playing out of position to plug gaps that you don't really need to play players out of position. So we'll wait and see. Sorry, I started this video saying I hope it wasn't going to be too depressing, but it's turned out to be very, very depressing. But it's just my thoughts on what I saw at the weekend. I mean, Arteta does have some big decisions to make now, as pretty much as I've been talking about in this video. I think for me the main one is what you do at left back. I think it feels really simple. Just play Tavares there. Arsenal are not going to have Tomiyasu back. It looks like that's going to be, hopefully he'll be available after this game against Southampton. We'll have to wait and see, but that's what people at Arsenal are saying at the moment, is that he should be back training at the start of next week. So it's going to be another game where you're not going to have the option of potentially moving Cedric over to left back and playing Tomiyasu at right back. So I just want to see Tavares play at left back. I think that's the biggest decision Arteta has to make at the weekend, is whether to kind of go against himself almost, because he made the decision last weekend. He's got to accept that he got it wrong, I think, and hopefully that's what he's going to be talking to the coaching staff about, and he's going to accept, look, I got it wrong. We're going to go back to type. We're going to play Tavares at left back, give him another chance. We're going to move Granit into central midfield, which just feels absolutely essential. When you've got no Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka has to play in that position because he can be the link man. We know that Granit can pass the ball well. He can split the lines with his passing and find someone like Odegaard who then will be in a further advanced position. That's what Thomas Partey does so well. Granit Xhaka is not as good as him at doing it, absolutely, but he's what the best Arsenal have got right now to play that role. And then you can play Sambi, who, like I said, I thought Sambi responded really well in the second half against Brighton, because he had a difficult first half, no doubt about it, but I don't think the manager helped him in any way with what he asked him to do. But in the second half, I thought for a young player who'd had a difficult 45 minutes, he stepped up pretty well and put in a decent performance. So, you know, I'd absolutely keep faith with Sambi for this one, but I'd just play him slightly ahead of Granit Xhaka, kind of have those two dovetail in midfield, and then let Martin Odegaard do what he does best in that final third and pull in the strings. And then I'd either go with Eddie or Martinelli as a central striker. Lacazette needs to be taken out. It's a big decision. I know it's a big decision because Lacazette's Arsenal's only senior striker, and you know, Mikel made the decision in January not to bring someone in. I'm not going to harp on about Aubameyang. I know he scored yesterday. I've said it before though. I think that ship had sailed. Arsenal had to do something with Aubameyang in January. He wasn't going to come back. Whether that's Arsenal's fault, Arteta's fault, whatever, it just got to that. It got so far down that route that there was no coming back from it. They had to move something on. So I'm not going to criticise them for letting Orba go. I've said my piece on that. But the big thing that I've always said and criticised them for is the fact they didn't find a replacement. They had to. If you're going to let Aubameyang go, you have to bring someone else in. You can't just hope that you can sort of get through to the end of the season just with Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah as your central strikers. That was a big mistake, and ultimately Arsenal are paying for that now because they've got very limited options. But having said that, they do have options, and that is Martinelli and Nketiah, and so you've got to use him, or even Pepe. I don't think it worked that well having Pepe, but at least you've got to try something. You can't just keep going with Lacazette at the moment when he's so out of form. So that's another big decision. I know he's the captain. It's going to be tough to take him out, but you've got to do it. You can't keep going the way things are going because Arsenal just aren't scoring. They're not threatening. And Lacazette's just not doing enough when he's on the pitch. And so when that happens, you've got to take players out of the team. You can't keep keep him in. So it was interesting. Mikel speaking in the press conference afterwards on Saturday, he kind of said, look, I know we need to score more goals. I'm not happy. And it'll be interesting to see if that manifests into him actually making a change on Saturday. I think the press conference this week is going to be on Thursday. No confirmation of it yet, but it looks like that might be the case. I'll let you know later on. But yeah. Interesting week at London Colney. Arsenal have got an awful lot of work to do on the training pitch this week, and Mikel Arteta's got an awful lot of decisions to make ahead of that game against Southampton at the weekend. I'm not around for the next couple of days, you guys. It's Easter holidays time. I'm away all of next week as well, completely. So you're not going to hear much from me over the next fortnight, but I'm away for the next couple of days because I'm looking after my kids. I'm back on Thursday and Friday, so I will try and do some videos then. But for the next couple of days, you're not going to hear from me. So apologies for that, but the way things are going, you probably don't want to hear me rattle on for another 15 minutes being all depressed like I am at the moment. Have a very good day, everyone. The sun's shining. Go out, forget about football for a bit. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll speak to you a bit later on in the week. See you later.